The story of your ancestry began not just in one place, but across 3 continents, with threads stretching back 15,000 years. That's the magic of Mexican DNA. It's one of the most diverse, complex, and misunderstood genetic tapestries in the world. It's not just indigenous, it's not just Spanish, it's not just African, it's all that and more. In today's video, we're diving deep into the roots of Mexican genetics, exploring how ancient civilizations, European colonizers, African survivors, and even Asian sailors left their mark. We'll trace how this rich mix survived isolation, reshaped history, and now stretches across the globe through millions of descendants. If you want to help me, please subscribe. So, if you've ever wondered why your DNA results look like a map of the world, this story's for you. Long before pyramids rose and empires formed, the first humans set foot in what we now call Mexico. Around 15,000 years ago, small bands of nomadic hunters crossed from Siberia into North America through the Bering Land Bridge. Over generations, they journeyed south, adapting to new climates, foods, and terrains. Some of them settled in Mesoamerica, laying the genetic groundwork for what would become an astonishing diversity of indigenous cultures and communities. These weren't one-size-fits-all lineages either. Mexican indigenous DNA is incredibly regional. The DNA of a Nahua-speaking person from central Mexico is very different from that of a Maya descendant in Yucatan or a Zapotec in Oaxaca. Each group developed its own adaptations, languages, and genetic markers shaped by thousands of years of isolated evolution and ecological demands. What's more, some indigenous lineages in Mexico contain rare mitochondrial DNA haplogroups, such as A, 2, and C1, that link all the way back to the original first American settlers. So when we talk about Mexican DNA, we're not just talking about what came after Columbus, we're talking about something deeper. An ancient ancestry that predates the Roman Empire, that predates the Great Wall, and that is still alive in millions of people today. From around 1200 BCE to the 1500s, Mesoamerica became a hub of civilizations that weren't just building temples. They were building networks, cultures, and deep-rooted genetic legacies. Civilizations like the Olmec, Zapotec, Mixtec, Maya, and Aztec didn't operate in isolation. They engaged in trade, war, diplomacy, and marriage alliances that connected regions stretching from central Mexico to Honduras and Guatemala. And every one of those interactions left a genetic footprint. Unlike many ancient societies, these empires often merged through influence rather than total conquest, allowing unique genetic lineages to persist while also intermixing across city-states and regions. For example, Maya ancestry didn't stay locked in the jungle. It traveled via trade routes north toward central Mexico, while genes from central highland populations moved south. The genetic result is a kind of web. Dense, resilient, and interconnected. Modern indigenous communities in Mexico still reflect these ancient patterns. A person from Oaxaca might carry genetic markers tied to Mixtec nobility, while someone in Veracruz might show traces from both Olmec and Maya ancestry. It's a legacy that proves Mexican DNA isn't just old, it's intricately woven. And even today, those ancient threads still shape the way people look, metabolize food, resist disease, and define their roots. When Spanish ships landed in Mexico in 1519, they didn't just bring armor, horses, and a thirst for gold, they brought genes, and not just from Spain. The colonial period introduced one of the most dramatic shifts in Mexican genetic history, layering European, African, and even Asian DNA over the deep indigenous base. The Spaniards themselves weren't genetically uniform. Many came from southern Spain, already a blend of Iberian, Moorish, and even Jewish ancestry. This mix entered the Mexican gene pool through intermarriage, conquest, and the rise of the mestizo class, those of mixed indigenous and European descent. But the Atlantic slave trade also left its mark. Tens of thousands of enslaved Africans were brought to Mexico, especially to regions like Veracruz, Guerrero, and Mexico City. Their DNA, primarily West and Central African in origin, remains visible today, particularly in mitochondrial lines passed through mothers. Then there's the lesser-known chapter, the Manila galleons. For over 250 years, ships sailed between the Philippines and Acapulco, bringing Asian goods and people. Some Filipinos and Chinese laborers settled in Mexico, leaving subtle genetic traces that surprise many in modern DNA tests. Colonialism didn't erase Mexican identity, it expanded it. The result is a tricontinental blend that makes Mexican DNA one of the most genetically rich in the world. Despite the massive upheavals of colonization, war, and disease, indigenous DNA in Mexico didn't vanish. It adapted, endured, and in many places held its ground. Some communities retreated to remote areas, mountain valleys, jungle villages, desert plains, where European influence was minimal. Over generations, this isolation allowed ancient gene pools to remain remarkably intact, preserved like biological time capsules. In fact, in states like Oaxaca, Chiapas, and Yucatan, the genetic profile of many residents today is still over 90% indigenous. Genetic drift, when small populations evolve in relative isolation, also played a major role. It gave rise to rare traits, distinctive facial structures, and localized health profiles that differ from region to region. For instance, some highland communities show adaptations for oxygen efficiency at altitude, while others near the coasts exhibit immunity markers tied to tropical pathogens. These aren't just scientific curiosities, they're signs of survival, of human biology responding to centuries of environmental pressure. Even language can reflect this endurance. Communities where Nahuatl, Zapotec, or Maya are still spoken often align with regions showing strong indigenous genetic continuity. It's a powerful reminder. While colonial history reshaped the surface deep under the skin, the original people of Mexico are still very much present and genetically distinct. As genetic science advances, researchers are uncovering stunning secrets within Mexican DNA, traits and adaptations that speak to centuries of resilience and survival. For example, scientists have identified unique gene variants in indigenous Mexican populations that improve blood sugar regulation, likely shaped by historical diets rich in maize and low in fat. Other groups, particularly in highland regions, show genetic adaptations that support better lung function in thin air, similar to populations in the Andes or Himalayas. Another fascinating discovery involves immune system genes. Some indigenous Mexican communities carry rare variants that offer resistance to tuberculosis and other infectious diseases, possibly a result of early exposure to pathogens through dense city life. In ancient Mesoamerican civilizations like Teotihuacan or Tenochtitlan, these immune traits may also help explain the genetic complexity behind certain modern health disparities, like diabetes or autoimmune conditions that disproportionately affect people of Mexican descent today. What makes these findings even more powerful is that they're reshaping medicine. Genetic research in Mexico is now informing personalized treatments, regional health strategies, and even global understanding of human evolution. So the next time you spit in a tube for a DNA test, remember, your genes don't just tell a story, they may hold the key to solving ancient puzzles that still affect people today. In the last 2 centuries, waves of Mexicans have left their homeland, some seeking opportunity, others fleeing hardship. From the Bracero program of the 1940s to modern migration trends, millions have resettled in the United States, Canada, and Europe, bringing their stories and their DNA with them. But what's remarkable is how intact the genetic signature of Mexican ancestry remains, even generations later. Take the US, where Mexican Americans now make up the largest Latino demographic. Genetic studies show that many retain high levels of indigenous DNA, often mixed with Spanish and African components. Some lineages are traceable to specific regions in Mexico, like Purépecha ancestry in California or Mixtec roots in Oregon. And these genetic ties are more than numbers. They influence identity, culture, and even how health conditions are treated in diverse populations. Even more surprising, Mexican DNA has shown up in places like Italy and Germany, thanks to newer waves of immigration and international adoption. These genetic echoes connect people across oceans and generations, whether it's a great-grandparent from Zacatecas or a forgotten Manila Galleon ancestor. The global Mexican diaspora keeps expanding the reach of one of the world's most dynamic gene pools. If this journey through Mexican DNA moved you, please like the video and subscribe. It helps me so much as a small creator. Mexican DNA isn't just a mix, it's a masterpiece, a living story of survival, memory, and pride. What part of this tapestry runs through you?